Capital Region Sports Saturday, brought to you by Mohawk Honda, your number one volume dealer in the Capital Region. On the phone right now, Robert Zayas, Executive Director of the New York State Public High School Athletic Association. The decision comes down yesterday that Glens Falls, after this year, will no longer host the state boys basketball tournament. That is going to Binghamton for at least the next 3 years. Robert, what went into that decision?
Well, certainly a decision of this magnitude is not easy, and it's extremely challenging. Glens Falls has hosted this tournament very successfully for the past 35 years, but we have a bid process that we bid all of our state championships out, so that way venues all over the state have an equal and fair opportunity of hosting our championship events. Bids were due, and the boys basketball committee and myself and staff reviewed the bids. The boys basketball committee made a recommendation to stay in Glens Falls. My staff and I recommended going to Binghamton because of the bid that Binghamton had submitted. And then our executive committee ultimately has the final decision. And yesterday they voted 14-8 to move the state championships to Binghamton.
What was it that Glens Falls doesn't have to offer anymore after 35 years, or just that Binghamton does have to offer now?
Yeah, I mean, with the competitive bid process, the history of our association, we've never really had a true competitive bid process for our state championship events. We really revised our bidding process about a year ago. Now, for the very first time in the history of our association, last February, we had a zero bid offered for our ice hockey championships. And what I mean by a zero bid is that our association, the member schools of New York State Public High School, do not have to pay anything to host the championships for ice hockey in March at the brand new Harbor Center in Buffalo. That was never even considered as an option in the past. We, as an association, have grown accustomed to paying to rent facilities. And now, because of the bid process, these facilities are realizing that our events have value to their communities, to their section, and that's the reason why we're starting to see zero bids offered to our association. So ice hockey was the very first zero bid that was offered, and now Binghamton has also offered us not only a zero bid, but also tacked on an additional $30,000 to use towards tournament expenses starting in 2017 and then the 18 and 19 championships as well. So when you look at the bid that Binghamton submitted is really just, I mean, looking at it from a financial standpoint, it's phenomenal. But also Binghamton has a lot of the upgrades that Glens Falls is currently in the process of doing to their facility. You also look at Binghamton was able to offer us a free athletic trainer. Glens Falls, we would have paid about $1,200 for an athletic trainer. So I think that's what we're looking at. In Glens Falls, we've always paid right around $35,000 to rent the facility. Now, Glens Falls did lower their bid tremendously. Their bid came in at $12,500 for the facility rental. And then they also had an anticipated lodger's tax that we could apply for annually through Warren County. And then that would reduce the bid even further down by about an additional $25,000.
So just let me get this straight then. So Binghamton, so the New York State Public High School Athletic Association does not have to pay to host this event in Binghamton. Binghamton is paying for all themselves and then is giving $30,000 also in other costs?
Exactly. And that's one thing. I mean, we could use that additional $30,000 to pay for officials, to pay for hotel rooms for officials, to pay towards the transportation for teams coming to the state championships. That $30,000 is completely discretionary for us to use towards tournament expenses, which is a little different than the additional $25,000 that Glens Falls provided, because that really needs to be used towards promotion of the event. And again, Glens Falls has been very gracious in awarding that lodger's tax for many years, but that's based on an annual approval, whereas the Binghamton money really isn't. It's a guaranteed $30,000 per year. So the bids are very, very similar as far as the facilities go, but like I said, Binghamton, I think, wins out a little bit on the facility because they have done a lot of the upgrades that Glens Falls is currently in the process of doing.
So Glens Falls does get the federation, but they're going to lose the state. How is it that they're able to host a federation tournament, but they're going to lose out on the state? What's the difference in those two processes?
Yeah, the federation is obviously the 4 high school athletic associations here in New York State. I sit on the federation board, and we did hear presentations from Glens Falls on December the 9th, and then we went ahead and awarded the championship, or the federation championships, to Glens Falls based upon their bid. And really, to be honest, there weren't any other bids submitted for the Federation Championships. We had a bid originally submitted for Binghamton University. Unfortunately, they had to withdraw their bid for the Federation. And then Nassau Coliseum also had originally submitted a bid for the Federation Championships. And unfortunately, they also withdrew their bid. So it really came down to Glens Falls being the sole bidder. And I highly recommended Glens Falls for the Federation Championships, not only because they were the only bid, but also because, again, of the work that they've done for our association very successfully for 3.5 decades.
Robert Zayas of the New York State Public High School Athletic Association with us. Capital Region Sports Saturday brought to you by Mohawk Honda. Glens Falls losing out on the state tournament. After this year, it'll be moving to Binghamton, so enjoy your last year of it in Glens Falls for at least the foreseeable future. Robert, thanks very much for being with us.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate it.